Hey everyone, it's Kong, and this is the 18th issue of the Langrisser Lookout. This is a bi-weekly series where I go over some noteworthy game news and then follow it up with an update on my own account progress. So let's start with the important stuff, which is, as always, the community news roundup. The first and most obvious bit of not-so-new news is that the delightful roguelike mode, Endless Voyage Golden Sea, is currently active, up until Thursday, December 17th. And I know a lot of people are having a lot of fun with this mode. People are saying on social media that they wish they could reset it completely and start from the start and go through the whole mode over and over again. Lots of people asking Zlong Games to make it a recurring mode, if not a permanent mode, then at least have it come back every couple months. I think it's a lot of fun. Probably the most fun thing about it is, well, for me, playing with characters with really weird, improbable skill sets. A lot of newer players are also just enjoying the opportunity to play with characters that they don't have yet, or in the case of time-limited characters like Yusuke, characters that they can't get right now. Now, in the spirit of preview news, it's another month, which means it's time for another sneak peek at another major update from China. Of course, this means we're getting new characters, new 3-cost skills, and some new unique equipment. So let's start with the new characters, since they're always the big ticket item. The first new character we're getting is Vincent, who we know from the second act of the story. He has a flying class and a demon class, and he's in Meteor, Empire, and Dark factions, but he has no Meteor faction buff like some people hoped or speculated. His talent makes him explode, doing AoE damage around him when he dies. And of course he has a revive in his 3C. The active part of his 3C skill is like a self-chain hook that pulls him towards his target, and then does a burst of AoE damage around him, cleansing him of all debuffs and making him immune to damage for a turn. So he's going to be kind of an interesting dive bomb unit, who pulls himself into enemies, does a big burst of AoE damage, and then just kind of sits there while they can't do anything about him, and if he does die, he does even more damage to them and comes back. Really annoying to kind of deal with. Next up, we've got the Gendrasil-possessed Gizarov clone, Kreuger. He looks pretty similar to Bozel in function. He's a member of Dark and Mythical factions, he has Demon and Mage classes, and he's primarily an AoE debuffer. His talent gives him a damage boost for every debuff on any enemy anywhere on the map, for a maximum boost of 30%. He also has a 100% chance, at 6-star anyway, to convert one buff into a debuff on his target when he deals any damage, and that's including AoEs. His 3-cost skill curses an enemy of your choice and causes them to blanket their own nearby allies with multiple debuffs every turn for 3 turns. Super mean. After you trigger this skill, it turns into a normal AoE attack that, again, causes a bunch of debuffs and speeds up the 3C's cooldown. His other skills are also pretty Bozel-y, except for one debuffing AoE attack that also buffs allies within its range, boosting their damage and causing them to heal for a percentage of their damage dealt. Oh, and one that gives a damage reduction barrier and allows him to move again and attack, like a protective magical chivalry almost. So at least with Kreuger coming out with all these abilities, it looks like the debuff meta is making a comeback. So those two new characters are obviously launching with their 3-cost skills. So the new 3-cost skills coming out alongside them are, for the Knight of Mystery, she gets a big 3-line AoE that's effective against cavalry, and it disables helm effects, or it reduces magic defense if they're like an NPC. And it also converts a random buff into a debuff if they're on certain terrains. Disabling helm effects maybe is Zlong's way of trying to curb the RNG of something like Tenyo's headdress, which, even with Rosenseal coming out and kind of turning down the dial on the randomness of debuffs, Tenyo's headdress is still a thing, so maybe introducing more helm disabling effects is their way of trying to get around that. Next, we have a new 3-cost skill for Virash, which has a passive element that makes him always in water and immune to pre-battle fixed damage when he's initiating the attack after he revives. The active part is a big double damage mod attack when he's in water, and a faster cooldown when he's away from allies, so it's clearly meant to capitalize on his charging into the fray and croaking. Finally, Close gets an AoE dispel and heal centered on herself, and an additional passive element that makes her kind of a mini Lyanna. As long as she uses a skill on an ally, it dispels a debuff and heals allies within 2 range of the healed ally. Now for the new pieces of unique equipment, Tsubame gets a helmet that boosts her damage dealt, reduces incoming AoE damage, and gives her bonuses to crit rate and movement when she's in hide mode. So that is a pretty good overall boost to Tsubame's kit. Gerald and Layla get a different kind of boost. It's a weapon that's essentially a custom-made gift of eternal life just for them. So this is one of those pieces of gear that's like an iteration on something that everyone just uses on them anyway. It has flat and percentile boosts to both attack and int, and it also increases attack range in addition to the usual post-battle healing that you get. It's not something that's going to single-handedly make you build them, but if you're already using them, it's a clear upgrade. On the PvP front, we have the Apex Arena Season 5 playoffs, which just started this weekend, with the field being narrowed from the top 256 down to the top 128 on Saturday, and then further down to the top 64 on Sunday. And I know that Straw and Dongo are cooking up a new season of the Summit der Langrisser Community PvP tournament, and that's going to start sometime after the official Apex Arena Season 5 playoffs. Okay, that's it for the news, so let's move on to the Kong update for December 7th, and this is going to be a short update mainly because almost every single category that I normally talk about, I didn't make much progress. Starting with the most obvious, which is my summoning update, and I didn't make much progress because I literally didn't do a single summon, so I'm still sitting on that 50 pity from the Florentia and Tsubame banner, which means my lifetime SSR rate is still a mild disappointment at 1.77%. I didn't awaken anyone, so there's no update there. So hopping into the game, the winner of the 12th Gates of Folly community poll was Arianrod, which got her up to 5 stars, and not much else happened on the Gates front this cycle. And actually, in a related note, speaking of not much happening, yesterday was the first time I got Wheels of Fate from the time-traveling merchant in the past 10 weeks in a row. So I finally got 1 bundle of 3, and I'll be able to use that on my secret project. The next Gates of Folly community poll is of course now live on my community page, and the poll is going to be active all day Monday until the in-game server reset, at which point I'll start farming up whoever wins the vote all the way up until the next issue of the Lookout in 2 weeks. I am working on a secret project, so I'm going to leave Arianrod in the voting pool this time, but Rachel got the fewest votes last time, so she's relegated out, and I'll replace her with Sigma, I think. On the gear front, I had a relatively disappointing week. I got my 6th, shouldn't be too far, my 6th Fury of Tyr, which is not a bad thing to have extra copies of, obviously, since I can almost start putting them on frivolous characters now. There are a lot of people who can benefit from these, and obviously I'm not making full use of the ones I have yet, but there are a lot of characters that you can just chuck them on because it's just pretty good. But I didn't get anything new. That's pretty much the only notable piece of gear that I got in the entire 2 weeks. For grunts, now that we have continuous auto battle, I've really just been cranking through 20 Anarchy runs every day and doing some jobber type work on the various nodes, but I haven't capped anything new lately. I've been working on my Lancer defenses, which is fine. You know, my flyer nodes are already maxed. Just kind of working on some just different techs and troops, but nothing new at level 10 yet. Probably soon. Hopefully in the next issue I'll have something more to talk about there. And for my group, you know what? I went ahead and maxed Matthew just because I was sick of seeing a big ugly 96% every time I loaded into this screen. I also maxed Arianrod since she won the Gates of Folly community poll and started getting more investment, so she will be ready to go everything other than her star level. The only other thing I will mention is that if you've been following my community posts, you know that I started this kind of freebie gimmick account when I was recording footage for that beginner's banner video, which you can check out right here. I obviously created this new account, and I decided to keep it and use it only to use characters that you get for free. I'm never summoning on this account. So I have all this like loot that the game dumps on you at the start of the game. I'm not even doing my wishlist summons. In fact, I haven't even set a wishlist. I'm basically just going to try to use Grenier, Matthew, and Almeida, the free Cherie, and the characters that you get at the beginning of the storyline. So that would be like Scott, Lance, and Jessica. And I asked the community if they think it's okay for me to use friendship summons, and they said yes, since I have to do friendship summons for my dailies anyway, and they just get you, you know, the usual R-level characters. So that's been kind of a little project that I'm just starting to embark on and kind of test the limits of its feasibility. One thing that's going to be a big limitation is that most of these characters require SR or SSR characters that you have to summon in order to unlock their bonds. So for example, Cherie, I can't fully unlock her bonds. I can't even fully unlock Grenier's bonds because he needs Leaden. A lot of characters need Hein, so really the characters in this roster right now that I'm actually able to fully bond up are Matthew, Lester. That might be everyone here. Yeah, some of the other characters that I can fully bond up are like Aaron and Keith. And everyone else relies on someone that I won't be able to get. So I'm thinking that I am going to have to lean pretty hard on some of the Freebie collab characters, like Ainz and Iris, for example. And the other thing that was kind of an interesting consideration is whether I'm able to buy these shards in the black market for some of the SR characters. But we didn't really discuss that one, so I don't know if I'm allowed to do that or not. It's kind of like summoning, so it almost feels like I shouldn't be able to do it. But anyway, that's just a ridiculous side project. Like, as you can see from my stamina capped here, I'm not really spending tons of time in this account. Just whenever I have an extra few minutes, I'll come in and chip away at them. But every once in a while, I'll probably post a quippy little thing on my community page based on how I'm doing on this. And if I come across a fairly interesting challenge, I might try to tackle it with these shitty units, and I might post a short video of that. So we'll see what that holds in the future. Anyway, that's it for the Kong update, so thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for all your feedback and advice and encouraging comments. As always, stay tuned for the next episode of Should You Summon later this week, and then of course, I'll catch you in the next Langrisser Lookout.